Good evening, listener. Welcome to our weekly program, Issues of the Moment. This evening, we shall be discussing gender-based violence. It is a cankerworm that has been hitting the society. And here I have two personalities who are experts to discuss this program, this topic. Both are from Innovation Hub for Inclusive Empowerment and Social Development, an NGO. I have Paul Okpara. He's the program manager in that regard. Paul, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I also have Udo Derem Nduneri, Community Engagement Officer. Udo, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
As I said, we are discussing gender-based violence. My name is Daniel Ugoji. Let me start this way by asking you, Mr. Paul, what is gender-based violence?
All right, thank you very much for that question. In order for us to flow with what we are here for, we need to get to the foundational idea of what gender-based violence is. We can refer to gender-based violence as any harmful act that is meted on an individual based on their gender. So it can include sexual or physical, emotional, also includes economic abuse. And the effect is usually on women and children disproportionately. And we know that gender-based violence is rooted in unequal power relations, cultural norms, and including discrimination against the both gender, male and the female.
So, what is accountability protocol in gender-based violence?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. As an advocate, I will describe accountability protocol as a set of rules, standards, or systems that define who is responsible for what must happen when a report is made, and how institutions follow up to ensure survivors are protected and perpetrators are held to account. So it means that it is a set of rules, systems, structures that have been put in place to ensure that victims or survivors get help, and then that perpetrators are brought to book. So it defines who is to act and how the person should act. Thank you very much.
I'm still with you, Udo. Why accountability necessary in checking gender-based violence?
That's a very, very important question, sir. Accountability is very important in gender-based violence because if we remove accountability, abuses are unaddressed and victims or survivors do not get the support they need to thrive. GBV goes beyond the physical harm. Most times it has to do with psychological. Most times it leaves the victim or survivor with psychological trauma. So it is very important that we put accountability in place so that survivors can get help and the support they need, and then that perpetrators will be brought to book. Now, if we put accountability in check, it helps to address these issues and bring a balance and justice to our society.
So, Mr. Paul, what are the consequences if the accountability is not applied in gender-based violence issues?
We can have things like impunity and offenders not getting the justice that should be meted against them. When these kind of things go on, as long as we know that there are harmful practices that could scuttle the free flow of the existence of people. When it goes unpunished, when it goes ignored, it can become a norm. It becomes normalized. And people perpetrators that were not brought to book, other persons begin to see that they go scot-free when they do these kind of things. So when accountability is lacking, impunity grows, and those that are affected by these things, they lose trust in the system. And when they lose trust in the system, there's nothing anyone can do. They now begin to see it as a regular thing, and sometimes they are forced to keep quiet when this kind of thing happens because they know that they will not get justice. So it weakens the social structure and also promote fear. When it is not addressed, it can discourage even the victims from reporting cases. We've seen it many times. Since these things are not properly addressed or handled, they become scared to report cases. And because they know that it is not going to be addressed, or they know that it's going to waste their time and all that, and it would continue to deepen this inequality that we're trying to fight.
Exactly.
I'm still with you, Mr. Paul. What are the various stakeholders? Who are the various stakeholders expected to check gender-based violence in our society?
I would say everyone. It's everyone's business eventually. But there are some persons, which is one of the major reasons we are here today. There are some institutions that are core in responding or handling gender-based violence issues. Like I said, it's everybody's business. We should all get involved in it. But there are persons that are quite specific to dealing with cases like this. We have CSOs, civil society organizations, and NGOs like SieDi-Hub. We've been in this business for over the years, and we've recorded a significant amount of success. And we collaborate with other organizations, including religious organizations, traditional rulers, community-based groups, and health institutions like Federal Medical Center, the APSACA, NACA, name it, many health institutions. We also have our affiliation with media houses. A very classic example is the fact that we're here today to use this medium, leverage this program to reach out to people to talk about gender-based violence. We also have families and the police. You have NSCDC, you have FIDA, Federation of Women Lawyers, right? So we have a couple of them. It involves everybody at the end of the day. Yeah, so these are the major stakeholders that we have that are expected to check gender-based violence in society.
So let me come to you to ask you, Mr. Paul Steele, what is SieDi-Hub? As you were trying to explain, you came across the NGO. Tell us briefly, what the NGO stands for.
All right, so SieDi-Hub is an NGO, a non-governmental organization. Our focus basically is on women, youth, and girls. So for the fact that we have this thematic focus, we are quite big dealing with issues that have to do with gender-based violence. So we are really promoting women leadership. We are promoting youth empowerment. We also promote growth and development, community development basically. Right. So, and all of this culminates in what involves covering the negative effect of gender-based violence. In as much as these are the things we do not take these aspects in the women's and the girls' area. We don't take it lightly, right? So we try to put in measures. And as we speak, we are currently working on a project which is called the YBA Community Leadership Project. And it is what birthed this idea of going to media houses and sharing this message. So this YBA Community Leadership Project, we've been doing it for the past 1 year, and we've been in local government areas like Ikwano, and we're currently in Umaya South. In Ikwano, we had communities like Oloko and Ariam, and in Umaya South, we're still there. Umokoro, that's Amachara. We have Olokoro and Ubakala. So we've had a couple of trainings, and we've had a couple of mentorship. We've had a series of one-on-one calls, and a couple of things we've done. We've even built a network around this. And as it is, we are having so many testifiers. We're having many success stories from this. People are learning how to take care of themselves, how to report gender-based violence cases, how to handle it, and what to do when they come across such cases as this.
I'm still with you, Mr. Paul. Don't you think gender-based violence is a vice versa matter? Why do you concentrate on girls and youth alone?
When you say vice versa, I want to believe you mean men, including?
Both gender.
Very, very good. So the reason the response went one-sided was because you asked our thematic focus. And I tried to explain that we are on this project of Wanyibuhe because the focus for the project is on women. But on the general scale, we know that when we talk about gender-based violence, it involves everybody, right? So, and we do not exclude the prospect of handling cases that have to do with men being victimized, right? We don't take it out. It's also part of what we do. So it is a general concept. It is general. It's called gender-based violence. But we have this project that is kind of streamlined to educating women on how to handle these things. And in fact, one of the times we had our trainings, we taught the women that gender-based violence is not exclusive to women. It includes men also.
Yes.
So while you are on the forefront of the victimization agenda or the happenstance around gender-based violence, you should also be aware that men can also suffer the same thing. Right, and we are not only focusing on women, but we also have the aspect where we bring justice to serve justice to people that affect and that do these things to men also.
That's all right. Your mission is balanced. That's what I want to discover.
Thank you.
I'm coming to you, though. I said I want to ask you, what are the implications if the earlier mentioned stakeholders fail to do the needful?
That's a very great question there. And like my colleague has already listed the stakeholders involved. And according to what he said, addressing GBV is every man's business. Everybody should be involved. Now, there are so many implications if gender-based violence is not properly addressed, or if the stakeholders do not follow up with the accountability and referral pathways, which we already mentioned. Now, it has very implicating consequences. Very, very implicating consequences. And then one of them is we have perpetuation of GBV. Because if the stakeholders, if the community, if the people, if we as a people fail in reporting GBV or in holding perpetrators accountable, we are perpetuating gender-based violence, because it will give the perpetrators more wings to fly, to continue in their act, because after all, nobody is going to hold them accountable. There is no law, there is no policy to stop them or even to bring them to justice. Now, secondly, there will be erosion of trust, because survivors will definitely lose trust in the systems. They will lose trust in our institutions. So when you now come to them and tell them, okay, don't take laws into your hand, come to us, they will tell you the ones they have already done, you did not do anything about it, so they are not coming to you. And then it will stop them from speaking up, because what is the aim of speaking up if you cannot get justice? What is the aim of speaking up if you cannot get the support that you need? There's another one, that increased vulnerability. When we don't have accountability, when we don't support survivors, there is increased vulnerability because they carry the trauma on their own. They don't have a way to process it, because when you give somebody justice, it helps in the healing process, so they are not healed. And then now there's also ineffective policies, because if we don't do this accountability pathway or help survivors, it will lead to lack ineffective policies, because the other ones we've done, the other policies we've set in place, the other rules, the other laws we've set in place, we've not been able to achieve it. So the people will know that, okay, you have a weak system, you have weak policy that will effect this change. So what is the need of doing the policies if you cannot follow it up? It means that what you're doing is your policy that you've set out is already fake. Not fake actually, but very weak. It is weak. It cannot bring perpetrators to book. It cannot bring justice to our society. It cannot give support to the victims. It cannot give them the succor they need. So there is no need. So that is why accountability is very, very important in addressing GBV, because it gives survivors the strength and the power to speak up. When you tell them to speak up, you are telling them to speak up because you know that you have the means, you have the systems, you have the structures, you have the credibility to fight for them, to give them justice. So you can't just tell the people, when you are facing GBV, you speak up. After speaking of whatness, you make them an object of ridicule, and then the perpetrator start flying and telling them you cannot do anything. And then the perpetrator will go back to inflict more harm. So having an accountability system is very, very important in GBV. In fact, it is the backbone of GBV, because if you don't have it, then there's no need of there's no way you can address GBV if you don't have accountability systems in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Obara, let me come to you to ask you, how do we help victims of gender-based violence in our society?
All right, how you assist or help victims of gender-based violence? First, we need to learn how to listen. You need to listen to what they say and get the nitty-gritty of their report. Yeah, so this is one of the ways we assist. And while you're listening, we make sure that we don't judge them. We make sure that we don't pass any form of judgment. And judgment doesn't come only when you talk or when you accuse them or when you ask some form of disturbing questions. That is not only how people judge. Even by your stance, the way you look at them, the way you listen to them, the way you position yourself, and even the way you ask your question. Those are ways that you can pass judgment even before listening or while listening. Yes. So you don't create the atmosphere of judgment when you're listening to people that have been affected by gender-based violence. Another one is confidentiality. It is very important to have them trust you. And confidentiality also means you do not go about making a case out of their story when you have not been permitted or when you do not have the authority to do so. So their story should be exclusive. Their story should be special, and you should respect it. And that is how you show confidentiality. Also ensure their safety. How you assist them also ensure their safety, because, when they report these things, recently I read on the news that a girl was sexually harassed by a young man of 29. The girl was around 16 or 17 or thereabout, a minor obviously. And long story short, she escaped the first attempt of rape in her house. And the boy was arrested, and after some weeks he was released with the hope that he would not do that anymore. But weeks later, this boy accosted the girl while she was returning from her workplace. One of the days that she went to work and had this morning shift, she was going home around 6 or 5 a.m. or thereabout. The guy double-crossed her, raped her on the gutter, beat her, and rendered her immobile. She could no longer move and all that. And he hid the girl inside the drainage, inside the gutter. Right?
That's unfortunate.
Yes, hid her inside there so that people would not see the girl. Now, there's no justice in this anyways, but what I'm trying to point out from here is the fact that the girl reported him and he stayed in prison for a while, suffered what he did, and he said he was going to take vengeance or something like that, right? So when this girl reported this case, it shows that she was not properly safeguarded. It shows that there was those safety measures in place, because when these people are reported, their likes hear the same story and would want to take out vengeance on any person around. So safety is also very important, as much as you are also exercising confidentiality. Then you also refer to people that have been affected. You refer them to social support services, rather. Support services like the medical services, legal, and even the psychosocial ones. Then there are cases where you need to put them in shelter homes. All right. So for this kind of thing, we have a very renowned foundation in Abia State called SieDi-Hub Foundation. Right, so they can offer psychosocial and even shelter support for this kind of thing. In terms of legal, you have FIDA, Federation of Women Lawyers. You can go through that route to get justice in a legal way. Then psychosocial, I've mentioned SieDi-Hub Foundation. They also have ways of doing this. Medical, you have Federal Medical Center. You have your, what's it called now? Those small, the clinics around communities, right? You have those ones. You can also report the cases and they can take it up from there, right? So these are ways that we can ensure that victims are properly taken care of. Then follow up to ensure justice and recovery. It doesn't just end in taking the matter up. Follow up to make sure that justice is served and the person recovers from whatever wound or injury they have gone through. Then finally, create awareness. Create awareness. Don't shove it under the carpet. Create awareness. Let people know what is going on. Let people know that particular situation and how to handle it. Even while you are being respectful about that victim's or the survivor's situation, you should also be careful how you pass the message. But make sure you create awareness so that others can speak up early before the abuse escalates or before the thing goes overboard. Thank you.
Listener, if you are just joining, this is BCA 88.1 FM Umuahia, and we are this evening discussing gender-based violence in our society. And I have Mr. Paul and Miss Udodrim in the studio. Mr. Paul, I'm still with you. I overheard you mention referral pathway as you were talking. What does that mean?
Referral pathway, as the name implies, it is just like you call referral. You refer people. I'm just trying to use a layman's and a simple term before I go to the main form of definition. Referral, referring someone to another person. Then the pathway, it means a way, the conduit or the available system through which something can go through. So referral pathway is a coordinated system that links gender-based survivors or victims or those affected by GBV to the right services. That's the simple way to put it. So it outlines who to contact and what to do, the steps to take when you're reporting gender-based violence cases, from the police to hospitals to legal aid to counselors and shelters and all that. So it just helps to ensure that survivors receive holistic and timely support professionally without having this negative impact of whatever they have gone through, or even without being re-traumatized, because trauma is another aspect of gender-based violence that sometimes we forget to pay attention to. People that go through these things can get trauma, right? So the support they need is not only the physical aspect, but also the psychosocial part of it.
Thank you. Udo?
So,
do you think government is doing enough, as well as corporate bodies, to check in being involved in accountability protocol in gender-based violence?
All right, that's a very tricky question there. Okay, why I will not say that the government has not done enough or the corporate organizations have not done enough. I would say they are trying. And one of the challenges we have, which we discovered through our One Ibihe community leadership project, is that survivors most times find it difficult to speak out because of perceived stigma. So if they don't speak out, these issues will not be documented, and then the government or corporate bodies or organizations will not be able to look into it. So that is one of the challenges we have, the issue of not speaking up effectively. And then we also discovered that some of the survivors or the communities we work in do not know how or where to report. So if these things if they don't know where to report or how to report, it means that the issue will not be documented and the government cannot act on it. The corporate bodies cannot act on it because they cannot just come out and fabricate a story and start working on it. So I think they're doing a whole lot of work, and one of the areas we are working on as a corporate body or in collaboration with other agencies and government is to ensure that survivors first speak up and then we refer them to institutions and systems that will take care of them. Like my program officer already said, he has mentioned some agencies and organizations. We work with the Ministry of Women Affairs, and if we have issues, we refer it to them. We have FIDA we are working with, we have a Referral Foundation, we have the Office of the Civil Defense and some other agencies that we are working with. So we are working in collaboration, and this is why we are doing this project, to ensure that the communities know where and how to seek help, and then they know how to seek help, and then also have it that they have to first of all speak up, because if you don't speak up, you will never get justice. And then we are also working with local communities to ensure that they support each other, because sometimes when these issues are brought up, the community leaders will try to put it down because of the image of the people. They can sweep it under the carpet because of the position of the person involved. And then some mothers too want to put it under the carpet to ensure that their daughters will not be disgraced because they want their children to get married. And then the survivor will deal, or the victim will deal with the trauma. And then the person is seeing the perpetrator walking freely. And most times they brag with their money, with their position, and then you will not do anything. And of course, nothing will be done. So the government cannot just jump into it if you don't speak out. In SieDi-Hub, we cannot just come to you if you don't speak up. So you have to speak out first. This is what I am facing. This is what my neighbor is facing. This is what my community is facing. Then we enter there. And then if there is support, we give you support. So the government is trying. The corporate organizations, they are also trying. But then we are working hand in hand with them to ensure that justice is served, to ensure that women speak up, to ensure that communities speak up. And we're also working with the community leaders, not the women alone. In any community we work, like the one we did in Oloko, Ariam, Obakala and the rest, we worked with the community leaders. They know what we are doing. They gave us their support because we cannot do it alone without them. So we are working in collaboration with the community leaders, with the government, with other corporate organizations, the NGOs, to ensure that gender-based violence is addressed and curbed in Abia State. Thank you.
Thank you. Time is no more on our side. But before we go, Mr. Paul Okpara, let me ask you finally to share your message and advice to victims, especially girls involved in gender-based violence in our society.
Okay, so advice to victims of gender-based violence. I would say to every person who has been affected by GBV, if you're out there listening to us or you know anyone that has gone through this unfortunate situation, you're not alone. And just know that this is not your fault. And like my colleague has said, it is very important that you speak up and seek help. Report to the trusted authorities, report to organizations that we have mentioned here, and seek support, right? And because you should know that silence only protects your abuser. It only protects them. And remember that your voice can save not only you, but can also save others. Healing is possible, and there are people and systems that are ready to stand with you. Organizations like Innovation Hub for Inclusiveness, Empowerment and Social Development, SieDi-Hub, we're here. We also have the organization we mentioned also. Please don't keep quiet, speak up, and you will get the justice that you actually deserve.
Thank you. Thank you, my friends, Mr. Odo Derem and Mr. Paul Okpara, for your availability in this program today.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, BCA.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much, BCA, for this opportunity.
Listener, this is where curtains fall in this program, Issues of the Moment. Let me pay tribute to my Director of News and Current Affairs Department of the BCA, Lady Mercy Carlo, who is the executive producer of Issues of the Moment. I want to also thank you, the technical officer on duty, Edith Diogo, who has been working tirelessly to ensure we go on air. Listener, some other time, we shall be with you next week. My name is Daniel Ugoje. Thanks for your attention.